So there was a brief period, in the mid-late 90s when my sister and I lived together here in DC, and we both worked together at this Irish pub in the city, and we had this sort of weird combination of low expenses, a lot of cash, and a lot of free time, and the dollar was strong, and so we basically took a series of vacations to Ireland. Because back then we could go from BWI to Shannon, fly to Dublin, whatever. It was like $500 for the week, and our American money was like Monopoly money over there. And we both had pretty pronounced fetishes for British Isles accents, so there were a lot to recommend it. And so we did it a couple times and had such a great time that we thought it would be great to bring our best friend Emily with us and her boyfriend Mike. And I don't know, you go on vacation with friends, it's usually a terrible idea, especially if one of your friends is a couple, and a terrible couple who are on the rocks. Clearly, I've always been on the rocks and always will be on the rocks, but we were young and stupid, and so we thought we did it. And so we used to go over Thanksgiving weekend because everybody had extra time off work and because international flights were cheap. Pro tip, that's still true. And so we get together, we get on the plane, and from the very beginning, the minute we land at the airport, it's pretty clear that this trip's gonna be a little bit difficult because Mikey is also very sulky, which we didn't really know because we didn't really know him that well. But he had a lot of problems with not being the one to drive, but he didn't want to drive because it was on the left side, he didn't know where he was going, but then he also got really angry about it and really judgy about my sister's driving, because driving in Europe is really hard. I don't know if you've ever done it, it's awful. Especially if you're permanently hungover, which we were because we drank a lot on those trips. And so it was and we had to share a room one night with Mike and Emily, and they had sex, and it was really awkward because we're all sharing this room together, and so things were just going from bad to worse. And so day by day, we're traveling all over the country, and we're trapped in this little tiny car, the four of us, like a Fiat or something. I don't even know how we all fit, and we stink because we're in bars all night, every night, and people were smoking indoors, and so we have these heavy wool fisherman sweaters on that reek of Marlboro Lights and Guinness and desperation. It was just, we never had an idea where we're going. It wasn't the best trip. And there were a few really low points. There was the night that we found this bar called Made of the Mist and decided to karaoke, and we tried to make it a big fun night, but Mike did this awful karaoke. I mean, there's bad karaoke and then there's bad karaoke, but this time we were all doing a lot of Mike management to try to make him feel good enough about things that he wouldn't pick fights with Emily and ruin all the time we were spending together. So he did this rendition of Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World It Would Be, but he did it in character, as the skies blue, and he went on and on and on and on to the point, and then when we got off stage, we had to be oh my god, that was so good! Oh my god, seriously, that was amazing! We're not embarrassed at all! Can we get checks? Let's go! But he sensed it, he knew which way the wind was blowing, and so on our way home, he took one of those tragic goth detours into the cemetery that we walked past, and basically threw himself on the ground and kicked his feet and wailed about the injustice of the world, and we had to pretend that was a normal reaction to a bad karaoke song, which it's not. It's not. And sort of jolly him along, but this was a long trip. We had planned to stay for 8 days in that Fiat. And so we still had to, we're still trying to soldier on, and so we hatched this great idea. My sister and I had saved the part of our trip that we'd spend in Galway toward the very end, because we had been to Galway before and it's magical and we adored it and tried to actually move there, but that's another story. And we're okay, this is it. This is gonna redeem our trip. It's amazing. You cannot not have a good time in Galway. It's the greatest city in the world. It's great. So we go to Galway, things still aren't good. It rains a lot. We have colds by now because it's really damp in Ireland. The trip is just basically in the shitter. And we're you know what we're gonna do to pull this out? We're going to commemorate this trip by getting tattoos. That's what we're gonna do. So Emily was our little, she's the only one of us that had tattoos. She was the youngest at 22, and the rest of us were tattoo novices. And Mike also didn't have a job, so Emily was buying his tattoo, which is just another lovely element to the relationship. But So we go and we pick out our tattoos, and my sister gets a tramp stamp because we don't know yet that you're not really supposed to do that. And I pick out like a little weird Irish tribal thing because I was lame. I was 27. I don't know. And Mike decides he's gonna get this huge Celtic cross on his back. And so my sister and I go downstairs, and we're like browsing around a little shop down below. And Emily's upstairs with Mike, holding his hand while he gets his tattoo. And Mike is this like big guy, like a rugby player. Had a lot of attitude. And so Emily comes down a few minutes later, and she's like, "Everything's okay. I just wanted. Did you hear a thump?" My sister and I were like, "No, didn't hear a thump." She's like, "Well, Mike fainted. So I'm just gonna go we think he just needs to eat. I'm gonna get him some McDonald's, and I just don't want you guys to worry about it. So that's all." And so she goes and gets McDonald's and takes it back up to Mike. And my sister and I are stuck waiting like 3 hours for our own tattoo turns, which is a very nerve-wracking time. But it did sort of bring us together, and we were able to at least pull out one good memory of the trip, which is that we end up with this, great memoir. So it's not a great tattoo, unfortunately. I can't show it to you, but it is a good story about where I got it at least. Thanks.